Hey, how was your weekend? The usual, pretty boring. Meanwhile, people in Ukraine. Yep, as women lecture us about male privilege, that right there is called a dragon's breath, a drone with thermite munitions on it that people in trenches were desperately trying to shoot down. But just like shooting at the sun, it's kind of impossible to do, as of course in our Western society we are fed distraction after distraction, as I think people fail to realize the larger kind of significance of the geopolitical international situation that we are in right now, as now there are some real, serious, legitimate considerations by the Russians that are responding back to the United States government threatening the use of long-range sophisticated missiles, responding to those threats, not just by threatening all-out war, but now also officially today threatening to arm Iran with nuclear weapons. As the grand chessboard got that much more complicated, the stakes got that much more higher, as the situation in the Middle East is just as troubling as the situation in Europe, as internationally U.S. hegemony is being directly questioned. All of this as the future of the U.S. petrodollar is still in question, while CNN, the most trusted name in news, is talking about a potential love affair between Laura Loomer and Donald Trump, as Donald Trump is talking about how he really doesn't like Taylor Swift, and other people are discussing how a man picked up a bird from the street. Yes, that is the current discourse here in the United States, as ever so we are being propelled towards a larger geopolitical fight with another large nuclear nation that we are currently at odds with, as there are escalatory situations being put into place that, of course, there's no going back from, all with the kind of perfect timing surrounding, of course, November 5th, which is just around the corner, as I think it's fair to say, and I will be speculating later on, that a lot of these kind of escalations are related to that and could be playing a part what looks like some larger potential finagling by the establishment that could upend this political cycle, drastically change the entire landscape of it, while at the same time being able to, of course, implement emergency procedures and laws that benefit the current ruling party in Washington, D.C. Again, we'll get into my speculations here in just a little bit, but the news is very severe. It's very big, and we cannot underplay the significance of it, especially with world events with the way that they are right now. This political cycle that we are in has a lot at stake, as we just recently saw highlighted during the presidential debates between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, specifically when they were asked about their foreign policy, as the two clearly have different political approaches towards the larger conflicts that the United States is directly financing and involved in. And to steal an expression used by Elon Musk to describe the two type of people in our mainline society, he describes some people as extinctionists and some of the individuals as expansionists. I think it's fair to say, looking at Elon Musk's social media post, he views Kamala Harris and the old neoconservative regime that is realigning to fully back her and support her largely signifies bigger interest of the military-industrial complex, largely signals the corporate media that is in tune and in line with them. As even today, we got major bombshell allegations allegedly proving that there was some unfair play by ABC News during the presidential debates that allowed Kamala Harris to have the questions beforehand. As those allegations still get fleshed out, it wouldn't surprise me if that would be the particular situation, as if you remember, Donald Trump was fact-checked and stopped and corrected a lot of the times during his statements, as Kamala Harris wasn't once clearly showing the bias here, as of course the corporate media overwhelmingly for the past few years have been the biggest supporters of international war efforts. They have been the ones beating the drums of war, demanding conflict, demanding intervention, demanding bombs drop on human beings, as of course this is a special interest group that has been hijacked, that is parading around itself as some kind of fourth branch of the government, as some kind of unbiased institution, when in reality we know exactly what they are doing, we know exactly what they are calling for, as these are the same people that with a straight face will tell you that there's weapons of mass destruction and will continue to argue that fact for years on end. And if you look at the current administration and the corporate media support that they have, I think it's fair to say that they are putting us on a path towards extinction, and they are perfectly described as extinctionist as well, according to my own personal opinion and perspective. This is we are getting significant rumblings and news, specifically coming from Russia, a country, by the way, that within the last few years has been preparing its local citizenry for an all-out nuclear war. There's also significant videos now coming out showing that there are particular religious factions inside of Russia preparing also for the potential of a nuclear war. Something that, of course, is on everyone's mind who's actually paying attention to the story, as we reported to you a few days ago that the U.S. Secretary of State was hinting that the United States could soon lift restrictions on Ukrainians using advanced long-range military systems deep inside of Russian territory, a decision that is understood to have already been made in private, as there are a lot of rumors right now happening within Washington, D.C., that this decision was already made, and it's a decision that was, quote, made in private. There's also a lot of scuttlebutt specifically describing how this policy will be instituted closer to, of course, November 5th, in and around October, as, of course, that would represent the kind of perfect escalatory situation that we are all involved in. Now, what are the Russians now threatening to do? Well, according to U.S. sources, they're now threatening to possibly arm Iran with a nuclear weapon, which would significantly change the geopolitical situation for the United States inside of the Middle East and its greatest ally in the region that probably wouldn't be too happy about this particular development. Now, before getting into all of this specific details here, this larger retaliatory escalation is directly on many Western leaders, including, of course, Justin Trudeau, coming out and saying that he is in full support of Ukraine using these long-range weaponry systems.
Ukraine must win this war against Russia. And we will continue to be there to support Ukraine. And yes, Canada fully supports Ukraine using long-range weaponry to prevent and interdict Russia's continued ability to degrade Ukrainian civilian infrastructure and mostly to kill innocent civilians in their unjust war.
Joe Biden, the president of the United States, also signaled openness towards implementing and using. Now, this is significant for many particular reasons, as of course this raised a lot of particular alarms when a couple months ago he decided to supply Ukraine with these ATACMSs. This is something that the Ukrainians have been seeking and wanting for a very long time. The Biden administration acquiesced and has provided these weapon systems to them, and now the Ukrainians are asking permission in order to use them. Now, they're asking permission because there's a lot of specific kind of retaliatory responses that could potentially happen with Russia here that, of course, would directly point the responsibility at the United States, at NATO, for, of course, helping escalate. And Russia has declared that this is one of their particular red lines, and they have done that a lot throughout this entire conflict. We'll get into that in a little bit, but individuals like RFK Jr. are now urging the Biden administration to specifically not implement this particular policy. Specifically on Twitter, demanding Secretary Blinken to, quote, stop it, saying, quote, I say this not as a political partisan, but simply as a citizen of the world. U.S. Congresswoman MTG also came out on Twitter and announced that, quote, the majority of Americans do not support the funding and fueling of this war. And that, quote, the decision being made right now only accelerates the war and could lead us into World War III. Going on and later saying, quote, I urge all Americans to engage in this because none of us can survive a nuclear war. And she is absolutely right about that, as Russia has announced that it will be at war with NATO if these long-range missile systems are going to be put in play. As it's also important to note here that these also are missiles that are capable of potential nuclear weapons that, of course, the Ukrainians do not have, do not possess. But if you're Russia right now, you're seeing these larger weapons used as a test system in order to poke and prod Russian defenses to see how they work, to see how they operate, to see vulnerabilities within them, bringing us into a larger kind of escalatory situation, as Putin kind of made it clear, announcing that this means NATO countries, the United States, and European nations will be at war with Russia if these larger, more advanced, sophisticated weapon systems are implemented here that many people believe will only aggravate Russia that much more. Now, the larger kind of question remains, will Putin kind of stay true to his word here? As it's fair to say that Putin has threatened a red line many times and hasn't responded when directly provoked by the United States and other Western NATO nations. Now, is that a good sign here, or is that a sign of restraint, or is it a sign of weakness? As I think a lot of people still forget, Russia is a nuclear power, and whether you like the country or if you like Putin or not, you're still messing around and provoking someone with nuclear weapons. Say what you may about Vladimir Putin, especially when it comes to his record in 2021, especially when it comes to his record of suppressing the press and other political parties in his country. It's fair to say that this man usually gets his way through, of course, strong, iron-fisted methods, Soviet previous methods, as he is a former KGB asset as well. And now we're openly provoking this man who has literally his finger on nuclear weapons that could be implemented at any time, and now people are bragging, saying, hey, look, we provoked him all this time, he didn't act, we should continue to do it, is just a larger kind of idiotic, sociopathic, extinctionist-like belief system that is absolutely insane. As again, Putin has warned here specifically, do not strike Crimea. The West has done that. Do not give Ukraine F-16s. The United States has done that. Do not shoot Russian military aircraft over Russia. Ukrainians have did that. Do not strike Russia refineries in Russia. Ukraine has done that. Do not use satellite systems in order to target strategic locations inside of Russia. The West has done that. Do not use cluster munitions. The West has done that. And again, these larger escalatory situations, especially with the strong-armed leader of Russia, is just not smart. But now the Russians are saying, you know what? If you guys are going to be escalating against us, we're going to be escalating against you and your country's interest as well. As now we have the news that there are alarms going off between UK and US circles right now over the possibility of Russia providing Iran nuclear weapons. Yes, you heard that correctly. The United States president just had secret meetings with the British Prime Minister, as of course it's not really them talking, it's the kind of puppeteers behind them that are talking about the larger situation that could unfold here, as it is already feared that Russia has handed over nuclear bombs over to Iran. And if Iran has nuclear weapons, this is another major move in the geopolitical chessboard that puts the United States and its allies in a kind of check-like situation. As of course, Western nations are still trying to confirm if Russia did already give Iran nuclear weapons, as of course Iran has been playing a very crucial role in this proxy conflict inside of Ukraine, as of course a lot of the drone systems that the Russians have been successfully utilizing in this theater of conflict have come predominantly from Iran. They are very cheaply made, they are not as sophisticated as all the Western NATO tools, but they get the job done and have played a major significant role here, as the Iranians, with their supply chains directly going into Russia through Azerbaijan, are proving to be a major thorn in Western interests and allies. As of course, the United States has been warning about Iran having a nuclear weapon for a very long time. Now, what would stop the Russians from actually providing Iran with a nuclear weapon just to piss off the United States and to broaden his relationship and alliance with Iran? Because, of course, the Iranians are also providing the Russians FATH 360 ballistic missiles, and they are a major key component to natural resources and weapon systems that the Russians are heavily relying on. As of course, these actions will act as a major destabilizer to the Middle East that already is pretty unstable, to say the least here. And this is what we get when we continue to, of course, escalate the larger situation here, leaving us in a not so advantageous situation that is absolutely, truly reckless, truly dangerous, and not really well thought out here. As of course, again, just because he didn't act previously doesn't mean he's not going to act in the future here. There's literal journalists and political figures that go missing in Russia routinely. And that's the former KGB guy that you want to be pissing off here. As of course, even America's #1 ally has previously even pleaded guilty to shipping advanced U.S.-made weaponry to Russia, violating sanctions, weaponry that, of course, we were providing them, and they just traded it off to Russia as advanced aircraft technology with missile applications made in America is now in the hands of Russia, thanks to our greatest ally in the region. As of course, there's a lot of moving pieces here. Hezbollah is also involved here. A lot of other Middle Eastern countries are also involved here, as there's a threat of that larger conflict escalating here that we are also paying for, that we are also financing. There's also significant conversation and talks about the Russians potentially cutting off Western internet cables, as NATO just came out and said that Russia has been, quote, mapping the undersea internet cables, which they believe could be a major attack vector for the United States. As of course, cutting off the internet in America would lead to a lot of economic and social devastation. Fixing those online internet cables is going to be very difficult, especially since there are underwater cables. The Russians mapping them out. The Russians even particularly placing devices on them that they have remote switches to could be used as another kind of major leverage point. Now imagine with everyone here, especially in the United States, dependent on the internet, dependent on being connected, dependent on being online, not knowing how to even navigate without the use of Google Maps. Imagine one day all of that is cut off. All of that is denied to an entire region and territory inside of the United States. Will it happen? Again, NATO is warning that the Russians could potentially do this, and they can, as of course the gloves are off. And when you look at these larger escalations and you look at these larger major events, we do not take them as seriously as we should. And this is why I keep telling people, hey, always prepare for the worst. On LukeUnfiltered.com, one of my master classes is the Apocalypse Survival Training Drill, which if you are a member of LukeUnfiltered.com, you could download with one click of a button. And it's tutorial, helpful videos teaching people exactly how to make fires, how to land navigate, how to filter their own water, how to hunt small game, important things that you might need in case the total grid goes down. As of course, there's also the possibilities of EMPs. There's also weather weapons, weather modification, anything and everything could happen. And truly, this is the time to have a little bit of cash on hand. This is the time to brushing up on your survival skills. This is the time to sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com, which supports this independent media organization, but also, more importantly, gives you a lot of really cool offers of value. And I think being able to download this survival training, which, by the way, has like 50 plus videos, the things that we teach you here are absolutely critically important. And you guys should absolutely, even if you don't have time watching them, just download them, because you need to be online in order to get them, unless you sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com, download them, and have them conveniently on your hard drive or on your computer. And even if the internet goes down, you'll still be able to access them, because in a time of need, and you're like, holy cow, how do I filter all this water out that we're getting from unverified source? We have the answers for you. Again, download maps, print them out, and to think that this is not out of the realm of possibility. I think there's previously I thought there was like a 0.5% chance of like calamity happening as the larger escalatory situations between Russia and the United States kind of evolve here. There's also mutually assured destruction. That's why we're seeing a lot of this fighting happening in proxy conflicts. But that's why this war moving over to, of course, Russian territory is so concerning, because that is something that, of course, isn't just a proxy war. And the second it stops being a proxy war, all bets are off with just how absolutely chaotic and crazy things could get. Now, I'm not on the side of the Russians. I'm not on the side of any kind of warmongering country that starts wars. I am on the side of de-escalating things. I have always been anti-war. I've been anti-war since, of course, the Iraq War. Even before that one started, I was there protesting that specific larger conflict out there because wars are absolutely dumb, absolutely reckless. And if you look at modern kind of American history, they are the things that rob people of their life, liberty, and personal safety. Life is precious. We should be doing everything in our power in order to respect it, in order to protect it. And this is why I started the Apocalypse Survival Training Drill. This is why, even though previously beforehand I thought it was like a 0.5% chance that there would be larger calamities here, now I think the percentage has kind of increased here significantly as these larger escalatory tensions kind of, if I know I'm being honest here, put us on a trajectory of about a 35% chance of some larger kind of escalatory situations that will mean ish hitting the fan. Now, low percentages, but the fact that we're even there is absolutely worrying and concerning. It's something that should rattle a lot of people, and there should be larger statements of people saying, hey, enough of this nonsense, enough of this craziness. We do not want larger escalations here. We want détente, we want peace, we want negotiations, we want to, of course, calm the situation down, and we don't want this further escalating to very grave proportions, as a lot of this is absolutely ridiculous, and we still haven't even been told the larger geopolitical strategic goals here that we are kind of protecting. What are we? Why are we doing this? Explain it to us. Make an argument here why we should risk human life for what? What's really going on here? I still don't have that answer. And I think it's a question that we should all be particularly asking. If you agree, share this video with your friends and family members. Sign up to lukeunfiltered.com. It really does mean a lot to us. It means more to us than ever that you sign up and support this independent media organization. The more you support us, the more we do for you. I want to hire a bunch of people. I want to do more on-the-ground reporting. I want to travel to places. Right now, we don't have it in the budget. Right now, I have too many things going at once. We need more people. We need more manpower. We need more people to get involved. We need more people to get activated. Do it right now. Sign up to lukeunfiltered.com. You can do it for as low as $8 a month, and it truly does mean a lot to us, and we will be working our butts off for you on a one-on-one, peer-to-peer local basis. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys signing up, and this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on lukeunfiltered.com.